Welcome back to the Georgia Show. We've got a packed show for you today. A little bit of a delay due to technical issues, but we're here, and I'm here with my partner, Bill Quinn. How you doing today, Bill?
I am well, Todd. Thank you.
Well, I am on the road, obviously, and I am in upstate New York, and I had the chance, Bill, to visit and spend some time at one of the locks on the Erie Canal. Fascinating subject. We're going to be doing a series of reporting on this. It's the 200th anniversary of the canal. It's a big focus. If you listen to Michael Yon and some of the others, a lot of what we're seeing in the world is routes and resources and infrastructure to deliver goods and those resources. And I have a feeling that the Erie Canal is going to be back in the press and back in use. In fact, they may go back to 24/7 operation. And the big driver of that is the Micron plant in upstate New York near Syracuse is coming in, and it's going to be it's going to be situated near the canal, so they're going to possibly use that canal again to deliver a lot of supplies and construct the plant. And so they may be going to 24/7 operation. It's fascinating. And the plant is still in operation. It's still in use. I had the pleasure of sitting at one of the locks and seeing a boat come through and open the gates, close them, raise and lower the water. It's really an intricate system, and it's an old system, but it still works. All of the gears and everything have to be hand manufactured. You can't buy them anywhere anymore to move the doors. And it's really fascinating. So the Manhattan.press will be putting a lot of this out as we drop on stories early, which we're good at, Bill. And I know you've got some stuff on your plate today. What are we going to go into today?
So we're going to talk about some of the things that we saw around the country that some of the folks would say are millions of people standing up saying they don't like what Trump is doing, but we're going to show you a bigger reality underneath that. And we'll show you the truth behind what's going on. We're going to talk about the notion that maybe there's some things that should have happened in America that didn't, and maybe they can be corrected. Kind of like what you're describing with the Erie Canal. The Erie Canal was once one of the major thoroughfares for trade and traffic in that part of the country. Many people have forgotten about it, and maybe it's time to remember these things. And then we're going to talk about the voting systems in Georgia. Just about an hour and a half ago, David Clements, who we follow and is a good friend of the show, dropped a new podcast, and he speaks directly to this change in Dominion voting systems. And we want to have people hear that and consider it as they consider where we stand in Georgia with our elections. And probably a couple more.
Great. So the secret sauce of the Georgia Show always has been bringing you news in Georgia, but also connecting it to the national, even global news flow, so that you understand how this all impacts you here in the great state of Georgia. And that's the way we roll here, and we're going to continue to do that. I want to just give a shout out to our no ad subscriptions, because that costs money to do what we're doing here. And if you go to my.cdm.press, that is my.cdm.press for our audio audience, you can sign up for our no ad subscriptions. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. You pay it once, you get it out of the way. A lot of people do that, and you get access. You can roll from site to site and connect with no advertisements popping up at all. So a lot of people love it, and we've had a lot of success with it. So it helps fund us monthly as to what we're doing on the ground. We've got a lot of reporting trips coming up. I'll be in Beirut here at the end of this week, again, to speak at a conference on Christianity in the Middle East. And we've got some other exciting trips coming where we're going to bring you stories that you just literally don't know about, and you're only here. So back to you, Bill. Let's get rolling.
Okay, sounds great. All right, so the theme for today's show was America's future stolen? Were we supposed to be experiencing something different? And many people now recall, and when I heard RFK speak some months ago, he recalled the flavor, the feeling in America back in the 50s. There was a spirit of hopefulness, of positive outlook, of things happening, of pride. And was that in some way taken away by things that and people that didn't want us to actualize that future? Well, we're going to explore that theme. And then, are we getting it back? And just keep that in mind as we go through today's show, because we think it's going to be an interesting thing to consider. So over the weekend, you probably have heard about these No Kings rallies that they say, oh gosh, they're happening all over the place. Well, if you look closely on X, I think you'll find a different reality. Some of these things are being portrayed as, boy, there's just millions of people showing up for these. But in fact, are they, or are we being again tricked through the media by things that we don't fully understand? Here's a post by Right Angle News, and they're explaining that some of the pictures and video does not appear to be from this weekend. Let's take a look at this particular post with its video.
Millions of people across the country marching as we speak against the policies of President Trump. This is Boston. Look at that. We'll continue to follow these rallies throughout the day here on MSNBC.
MSNBC, we should immediately be suspect as soon as we hear the name. Let's take a bigger look at that video and see if you notice something a little unusual, and we'll come back to it.
Look at this. Millions of people across the country marching as we speak against the policies of President Trump. This is Boston. Look at that. We'll continue to follow these rallies throughout the day here on MSNBC.
Well, it turns out that people looked at this and they said, hey, something doesn't look quite right here. Haven't we seen this before? Well, it turns out that indeed this was something different. Why did MSNBC take this past video from 2017 down from their website? Was it to recycle it for today? Apparently so. That was a different protest back in 2017 on a different topic. And they apparently chose to try to portray this as something it's not. It is not happening today. Here's another odd video that we get asked some questions about, and then I'm going to give you some additional data on this. So did folks get put together in the space of a few days to be able to do a display that would be visible from the sky? And oh, by the way, it would rival the work of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders in terms of lining up on the field. Is that what really happened? Well, maybe not. Here's one of our favorites. Let me bring up his video here. Mike Benz. And Mike has consistently noted some odd stuff from time to time, and he calls this out too. Let me load this video, and I want to show you what he has to say. There we go.
I just think this is so funny. USA leading it, baby.
Why is that so funny? Well, recall that during the week, we heard that USAID money was flowing to all these different groups that are meant to foment protests and create things that look like, the country's going into some sort of chaos. And it's in part USAID money and foreign money like Soros money that's paying for it. Mike Benz was actually at one of these events, and guess what he finds? He finds somebody in a USAID t-shirt handing out instructions to the crowd.
I thought that was closed down, or did it got moved into the State Department? It's still active?
It apparently some is still active. I can't explain exactly how it's getting there, but I don't think it was completely closed down. No, they put the kibosh on lots of it. And as you recall, we reported on a number of organizations that appeared to be receiving, both now and perhaps in the past, funding in a flow coming from USAID and others, including Soros Tides organization, to some activities going on here in Georgia and Florida. So folks can find those if they go back to USAID funding flow and look at some of the things that we posted in the past. So again, this is just watching the maneuvering here is fascinating.
And it's all getting called out. That's what's fascinating to me.
It is. And it's one of the points. Are we getting it back? The question is, are we getting it back in part because people are getting wiser? They're watching. They're paying attention to the things that don't matter. And here's one example. Remember this photo I just showed you? Check. This is supposedly in Boston. Look at the trees.
Yeah.
In the third week, we're going into the third week of October.
Yep.
That's the current state of tree color, foliage.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I'm up here in that area now.
There you go. And that's the color of tree foliage. So that was, I think, one of the things that triggered people and they said, wait a minute, there's something wrong about that video. I maybe can't place it now, but they started doing research and then they find out, oh my gosh, they're using one video and calling it something different. So we are getting good, and the people are getting good at spotting this stuff and outing it. And we give them just a ton of credit for doing that. We will continue to call on those folks, both here in Georgia and elsewhere. That is part of, I think, the dynamic that we're seeing. Now, the other thing that happened is Trump himself came up with a couple different ways to poke fun at these supposed protests going on. One of which was a video from, I think someone else made it up, but Trump posted it and retweeted it and brought it up. Let's take a look at that. Now, this is, obviously this is AI and it's been put together in jest, but maybe that's the point. You got to appreciate the humor. The only better thing would be a big Mexican sombrero. All right. So that's one of the key messages for today is don't believe this stuff that you're seeing on some of the media. You have to do your homework. You have to check. And if it doesn't feel right, then think about it and do your research and figure out what you might be seeing compared to what they tell you you're seeing. All right. Shall we take a break for a minute? And
yes, why don't we?
Okay.
MyPillow.com is one of our big sponsors. They've always really made a good product, and it's helped our readers find good stuff and not really kind of the cheap stuff that's at some of the big box retailers that, as I say, changes color when you wash it or falls apart immediately. So the holidays are coming up, and a good way to find good gifts and support free media is to support MyPillow.com with promo code CDM.
The wait is finally over. My Towels are back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And that's not all. Check out our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings. Regular $119.98, now only $29.88. And how about our limited edition premium My Pillows, made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset, made exclusively for you to thank you for all your support. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for $39.98, My Pillow bed sheets only $29.88, and our limited edition My Pillow Queens $17.98 and Kings only $19.98.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, a family-owned and operated investment advisory practice. I'm a certified portfolio manager, and my job is to help you make better decisions with your money. One of the things we try to avoid is investing in companies that push the woke agenda. If you're invested with one of the big firms out there, there's a pretty good chance that you're feeding the beast that hates your values. Our company is 100% conservative, and we'd love to have an opportunity to work with you. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big, proud American Eagle logo.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Okay, back to you, Bill.
All right. So before we leave this, make sure you know what the reality is. Many people have noticed that Eric Trump released a book in the last, I guess, 3 weeks. And he's done quite a bit on X and elsewhere to make sure people know about it. What many people don't know is how many people are choosing to buy this book. And Trump himself and others are making that clear. Let's take a look at this. So the president brought out the picture on the left, and it shows that, here's the book, Under Siege by Eric Trump. And then on the opposite side, you can see another post that he brought out. And bear with me, so I'm going to bring this over so I can actually read it. It's a little small. But it relays that book is the #1 book in lots of different measurements. In #1 in books, see top 100 in books, United States national government #1, #1 in memoirs, #1 in political leader biographies, and so forth. It's really fascinating. And what it says is people are interested in this. They want to hear the opinions of folks like Eric Trump and probably Donald Trump Jr. and of course the president himself. So let's not stumble into believing that people don't care about this stuff. They do. And more and more, I think, by the day are getting involved in watching carefully what's going on. And they're seeing some pretty good things. So I wanted to make sure people knew about that. All right. Let's go back to the last show. And we spoke of some very interesting dynamics that were happening with Anna Paulina Luna, and that also overlapped some of the posts coming from Kirill Dmitriev. And what Representative Luna, one of the representatives from Florida, brought out was that she had received word that she would be receiving a 350-page document from the Russian embassy, essentially from Russia, but being brought to her by the embassy. And it was a collection of documents assembled to try to give their analysis of the JFK assassination and other information surrounding it. So subsequent to this, Ms. Paulina Luna did confirm that she had gotten the document. She gave it to some trusted consultants, and they went through it, and they are going through it. They're translating it and have uploaded it, and I will show you where. Now, you can download the raw document. Here's the note from the Russian embassy saying that they were sending this 350-page document over. By the way, it will also be published directly from the Russian government in the beginning of November, as I understand. And here's where you can go and you can actually download the PDF document that they received, all 350 pages of it. How do I know? Because I've done it. Below is the PDF link. This is what Anna Paulina Luna writes. The PDF link to the report from the Russian government regarding the assassination of JFK. Authentication and translation has already begun, and translated pages will be released in the coming days. Let me break the code for you. You can actually download the PDF. You can, my recommendation would be to save it in perhaps dozens of pages at a time, and you can paste those pages into Grok in X, ask it to translate them, and it will do so. I would not recommend you do all 350 pages. It'd probably take too long, but I've had good success looking at 15 or 20 pages at a time and bringing them in. Now, one of the things that people have focused on is, okay, who did it? Who assassinated JFK? It speaks to part of that. Perhaps it does have a fairly lengthy set of pages that speak to Oswald and his time both in Russia. Gives you some examples of documents that he had when he was in Russia and traveling. But perhaps the other unspoken question that many people have not asked was, why was he assassinated? What was it that caused so many people potentially to think that JFK needed to be taken out of the equation? Well, in order to get what might be an important perspective on this, we need to go back to something that happened just before Eisenhower left office. he made a speech, and in that speech, he raised some warnings. I'm not going to play the entire speech, but I will play a portion of it. And I'm going to ask you to consider this and keep it in mind as we go through the next few minutes.
But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
Very interesting statement. So in the first portion of his speech, he talks about the fact that we've had to create this military-industrial complex because it's necessary to ensure our security. And yet at the same time, we need to be cognizant of the fact that it must be kept in proper perspective and proper control, perhaps. And that requires an alert and educated citizenry, meaning us. So, very interesting warning as he gets ready to leave office. What we're going to show you next is something that came out of the report once they started going through it. And I have pulled some of the pages out to be able to show you directly, but let's take a look at this. So Kirill Dmitriev, who've had this unusual and fascinating goal and role through all of these last few weeks, notes that from the Soviet JFK docs released by Representative Luna, the Kennedy-Khrushchev World Peace Bridge could and should be built between Alaska and Russia at once. And he goes on, I didn't post the entire thing because it's rather lengthy, but with modern boring company technology, this is the ability to quickly do underground tunneling and other things. This could be accomplished. Now, why is this important? Well, kind of goes back to the way that Todd started the conversation. Sometimes the ability to have cooperation between countries is essential to the health and prosperity of the countries that are involved. What else was in this report that came out from Russia? Well, this is one of them, a very interesting picture of Khrushchev and Kennedy apparently together and apparently having, looks like a pretty good conversation, a pretty good meeting. We'll delve more into the substance of some of these as we get further into analysis of the document. We're going to let some of those that have deeper understanding and also the ability to translate this in natural Russian and then translate it into modern English. We'll hear more about some of these things. But look at this. And I'm going to go full screen so you can see this. This is a sketch, if you will, of the most of the world, absent part of Europe. And it shows a connection, if you will. This Kennedy-Khrushchev World Peace Bridge could and should be built between Russia and Alaska at once. This is a document that came from this package assembled back directly after the assassination of Kennedy. Were they working on this at the time? Was this in discussion? Well, we don't know precisely yet.
Let me bring up something real quick right there. Take that down for a second, Bill.
Yep.
This is an article we put out over the weekend, or not this over the weekend, but this week. What could Putin and Trump have up their sleeve? And it goes into exactly that and some historical analysis. This is an old photo rendering of what it might look like. And, you know, we connected to the Putin-Trump summit in Hungary. This is the tweet you're talking about. But these are old drawings from decades ago. This was from 1904. Tsar authorizes American syndicate to begin work on the bridge, the Bering Strait Bridge. And they were also talking about damming certain things. I mean, there's a lot of history here, and you can find this article on cdm.press. But my thought is that the routes and resources and the amount of natural resources that are available in this region, and a lot of people are saying, well, there's no people on either side, so why build a bridge? That's not the point. The point is to connect the economies and do it in a way that is stable and, you know, really just bring wealth to both sides. So back to you.
That's right. And it isn't just those two countries, as we'll see in a minute. It potentially can benefit much of the world in many ways. So let me bring this back up one more time. So I want to make sure people have a chance to look at this. Now, this is the drawing in the document given to Representative Luna. What's interesting to me is, again, the page that immediately follows this. Look at this. We don't know exactly what this was. It looks like it might be maybe part of the infrastructure. Look at the words at the bottom. Eternal peace. Eternal peace. And yet, after JFK was assassinated, did we have eternal peace? No, we had escalation. We had an escalation of the Vietnam War at the time. We've had conflict since. But was this possible back in this time frame? I think we're going to find out, and I think it'll be an interesting education. Why is it so interesting and potentially easy to do this? Well, the reality is that there's two islands, and there's an international date line that runs between, but they're only about 2.4 miles apart. One is part of the USA, one is part of Russia. So we've often heard, well, the Bering Strait is, you know, it's so close, you know, you can get across with 70 miles or so. Well, it's even tighter than that. The actual distance between land owned by or beholden to the two countries is only about 2.5 miles apart. Now, yes, there need to be more infrastructure. And one of the things that Kirill Dmitriev points out is a posting by Musk, who speaks directly to this. Now, again, Musk has had an interesting role in giving us information we didn't know before and that we need to know now. So let's take a look at what Elon Musk posted.
All Americans know that the US and Russia are actually much closer to each other, just 2 miles apart. And more than that, they are even connected. Sometimes, and here is why. The countries are separated by the Bering Strait. And if we look closer here, we can see two tiny Diomede islands which are 2.4 miles apart and divide the mainland of the US and the mainland of Russia. Little Diomede belongs to the USA, and it is home to one of the most isolated towns in the USA called Diomede, with a population of 82 people. Big Diomede belongs to Russia and it is uninhabited. Only military personnel are present. Therefore, Diomede is the closest American town to Russia, separated by 2 miles of water. And the point is that in the winter, the water freezes and creates an ice bridge between the two countries, and thus making it possible to cross the border by land. Interesting that there is an international date line between these two islands. The difference between them is 21 hours. And if you cross the border from the US side, you will be in the future and become a kind of time traveler.
Interesting way to say it, but it gives you a sense of just how close this is and could be. Now let's go back. Let's go back here for a moment. Now here's I'll call it sort of the bigger picture. Look at how much might be created if this connection were to be in place. You'd be able to transport goods across much of the world, given the ability to get across there. Today, there's other ways to do it, but they could be a lot further, and some might require sea travel to get goods and things where they need to go. So here's one way of looking at it, and Kirill Dmitriev again talks about the potential for this. Let's look at one other view of it, and look at all the different places that might be connected, all the way down to and through Japan and China and so forth. And in fact, one of the things that Dmitriev pulls out is there's already been a connection to China that's been under construction for some time. And I believe it's operational now, but I don't know to what level yet. So isn't it interesting? You know, we've gone back, many people have talked about, you know, what would have happened? What would the world have looked like if Kennedy had not been assassinated? And so back to our question at the beginning of the show, was this a potential future that somehow, because Kennedy was taken out, was somehow stolen, at least stolen for that time? Many people have talked about the whole tone of the country changed after Kennedy was assassinated. And we often don't consider, we don't think about what were the potentials that might have happened and what did we miss and maybe miss so far? Are those potentials still waiting there for us? Well, I guess we're going to see. It should be very interesting. Shortly after,
let me jump in real quick there, just so
Sure.
for CDM's audience. You know, God works in mysterious ways. So I spent 3 years in Alaska. I actually got an engineering degree there, and I flew all over the state. So we're going to go back and use some of that expertise. I talked about additional trips. We're probably going to go to Alaska and to the West Slope there, and we will reestablish some of those relationships and build more insight into what's going on there. And it'll be one of our focuses going forward at CDM on this whole entire possible connection between the two continents.
Okay, it sounds fascinating. So it was very interesting that following this document coming over, there was a 2-hour phone call between Trump and Putin, and it was spoken of. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'll read you a couple excerpts from this, and you're welcome to look at it in Trump's posts online. But he says, "I've just concluded my telephone conversation with President Vladimir Putin, and it was a very productive one. President Putin congratulated me in the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed about for centuries. I actually believe that the success in the Middle East will help our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia-Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady, Melania, for her involvement with children." Recall that we talked about that in our last segment. And so we're seeing that there's communication going on both between Trump and Putin and Melania and Putin. And there are now meetings coming up where we will begin talks with Russia. It sounds as if on a number of different fronts that this could be one of them. So we will see. We're going to keep eyeballs on this. Obviously, with your trip coming up to Alaska, Todd will maybe be able to see some things and firsthand and see what the people think about it in Alaska. But going back to the way we started this whole conversation, you know, is this something that we could have experienced? Did we have peace in our future at the time that JFK was the president? And was that peace taken away? And if so, by whom, back to by whom, and why? And what have we experienced since? Has it been, many would say, war after war after war? Perhaps.
I would change that to false flag war, false flag war, false flag.
Could be. So we think that this is a remarkable step, a remarkable set of discoveries. We're certainly not done. There's a lot more to come. But we wanted to make sure that people understood in the middle of this, there's this sense of potential that may be back on the table and may have been taken from us now, several decades ago, and may be coming back. So,
one of the other things one of the other points in that release from the Russian Federation was the focus on 2 shooters. I believe there's a lot of information giving a lot of credence that there was more than one shooter at the JFK assassination. So,
yep.
Just throw
and
that
one more
out there.
thing. One more thing before we leave this. It just is kind of remarkable. Mr. Dmitriev posts this: an AI video competition on the Putin-Trump tunnel, Russia, Alaska, and Bering Strait. And they're going to give away a prize to the winner. And people apparently are already submitting their vision of what this could be. So isn't that fascinating to engage essentially much of the world, anybody that has access to X, I guess, in developing AI videos to portray what this could be? What better way perhaps to show potential? Go ahead.
There's a macro next level to this. China has been successful building the Belt and Road Initiative essentially through the southern hemisphere. This is looking to be the Trump Belt and Road Initiative for the northern hemisphere, because he just set up the Trump route for international peace and prosperity in Armenia, where we just were, and you're seeing segments getting put in place, and so we'll see where this goes, but it's quite fascinating.
Well, we hope it will be a positive and cooperative one. The Belt and Road Initiative, for some countries at least, has set up some things that might not be fully.
But this is brilliant.
Great.
I mean, this is 5D chess. Okay, you're going to go through Africa. We're going to connect Russia and North America.
Yep, very interesting. Shall we take one more break before we get into?
Yes, here we go.
Yep.
Please support our
Great.
sponsors. One of the sponsors we brought on recently is Alp.com, the Alp pouch. It's a nicotine pouch. We've had a lot of good feedback on the product. Moister, very tasty. More in the tin. Great stocking stuffer with a sleeve of 4 or 5 of these containers. But here's an ad from Alp.
Can I ask a question about the nicotine pouches?
Yes.
Does it melt in your mouth, or do you have to spit it out later?
You can spit it out, you can swallow it, or you just savor it. I mean, you throw it in like you would a dip of tobacco.
Okay.
But you just let it sit there, and then it suffuses your nervous system with life-giving nicotine. And it really does feel like the hand of God is massaging you.
But does it feel like the high of smoking a cigarette?
It's simultaneously, if you can imagine the Zen paradox, higher alertness accompanied by deep relaxation.
Wow.
So you really are. No, it's a Zen experience. You're like cat-like in your readiness, but you're fully
And how long does it last?
I always have one going. Sometimes if things are, if I need it, I'll put another one in. So I've got 18 milligrams of nicotine, but that gives me an unfair advantage.
You're banging 18 milligrams? Woo. That's impressive.
I don't like to, because everybody else kind of recedes into the background and I become this kind of colossus when I do that, and I feel guilty about it. Hubris is inevitable at that point. So I usually keep it to 1.
I mean, I could use a new addiction.
Oh, yes.
What's the gateway drug level? What would you prescribe?
This sits between caffeine
We
and
sell
cocaine.
a 3 milligram, but there's a transition, like all great.
Back to you, Bill.
Okay, and just so we know, yes, it is as great as they say. I've been able to avoid the hubris and been able to avoid the addiction.
Are you becoming a colossus, Bill?
I am not becoming a colossus. If I was, I'd be,
So
Okay.
that's CDM Alp. It's a new URL. So please notice that. Take note. CDMAlp.com. Thank you.
Okay. So one of the key things about Georgia, and it really, we've talked about Georgia so many times about where the epicenter of some of the real problems that we see across the nation. One of the gentlemen that has, I think, just a great insight in some of the key problems and some of the dynamics that are playing out right now is David Clemens. And he has been bringing out the a new version, an updated version of the Professor's Record, a podcast and also a Substack, and making some key points about some of the things we're seeing now. Today, just about an hour and a half ago, he brought out this one, and it speaks to the sale, if you will, of Dominion voting systems to and reformation of the company into something called Liberty Vote. And let me not steal his thunder. I would like you to hear some of his comments. We'll play a bit of this, then we'll come back and we may play a bit of one of Todd's trips as well. So let's see this.
In my garage study, the dryer offers a gentle hum. Screens flash with news of Liberty Vote's rise, announcing Dominion's death. So-called conservatives hail the news, heralding it as a win for election integrity. It might be, but not for the reasons they claim. I see two possibilities. Trump's DOJ is exerting pressure on Dominion. Criminal investigations are underway. They were pressured to sell. Decommission rigged machines while the government shutdown allows Trump to defund and remove the deep state election aspects of DHS and CISA, with the goal of getting us to paper ballots, hand-counted in a single day. The other, Liberty Vote, is the deep state's latest attempt to shapeshift, play at compliance, and move the goalpost on how elections will be subverted going forward. It could be a combination of both, but here's my dilemma. I can't validate the first option with any real confidence. It's a hunch, an intuition, and I can't risk allowing our election-rigging black box slave masters to go about in peace on mere intuition. So, shine a light I must on Liberty Vote. Why? Because conservative influencers that may be sincere in their misguided beliefs about our elections are still silent about the use of rigged machines and software. Sincerity be damned, their beliefs are killing our nation's elections. I suppose I can live with idiots babbling about things beyond their understanding, but I can't abide conservative Inc., the MAGA-masked establishment that knows the truth but pretends otherwise. They are facilitators of the nefarious lie that machines do not bleed us dry, all while concealing the Faustian devil that gave them 30 pieces of silver to maintain their celebrity platforms. Look at the silence concerning military hero Colonel Conrad Reynolds, an advocate for paper ballots, arrested on bogus electioneering charges when all he did was conduct an exit poll. His accusers? Republicans in deep red Arkansas. If Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is defending the machines, allowing a Trump-loving veteran to be prosecuted, then you know we still have work to do. It's for these reasons that I believe Liberty Vote's rise isn't a house-cleaning rebrand. It's a fresh arm of the same ancient beast. Think of a Leviathan-like octopus, its arms able to bend, twist, elongate, and shorten throughout the nation's election infrastructure. Each arm has rows of suckers that latch onto true election reformers, suffocating them with deep state resources. When reformers gain a victory by cutting off an arm, the octopus regrows it, restoring function in weeks or months. It shifts colors like a chameleon, mimicking coral or rock to hide in plain sight. Liberty Vote's rebrand of Dominion mimics it, with new logos and a website. That's how stupid they think we are. The playbook is ancient, summoning the memory of 2 Corinthians 11:14, which states, "And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light." Change the name of Dominion to Liberty, and presto, the charade begins anew. And that's the topic for today. Leviathan's tentacles, Dominion voting sacrificed. Meet the new tentacle replacing it, Liberty Vote. When scrutiny intensifies and a hue shift fails, another arm slithers in. It replaces the exposed one, posing as a free market competitor. Yet all arms, election systems and software, ES&S, VR systems, Dominion, Total Vote, Liberty Vote, trace to one ravenous monster controlling the vote. If you need a primer on all these entities and how each has contributed to the theft of the 2020 election, watch my documentary, Let My People Go, and then come back to this article. If you are up to speed, consider the latest PSYOP for your mind. Raheem Kassam's National Pulse hailed Liberty Vote as Dominion's death on October 9th, 2025. Whether he knows it or not, he helped stage another cycle of deception. His article claims a few days speaking with Dominion's new owner, Scott Leindecker, and his team. It reads as a public relations puff piece, glossing over the litany of electoral abuses attributed to Dominion and Leindecker's knowing, precursors to Liberty Vote. Not one detail is offered on how Liberty Vote intends to plug Dominion's software backdoors to bring in, I quote, a new chapter for American elections, one where trust is rebuilt from the ground up. Leindecker is portrayed as an election integrity bulldog, a Republican election official who reformed elections in St. Louis, Missouri. So, who is Scott Leindecker? He is the architect behind several arms of the shape-shifting Leviathan, a former Republican elections director in St. Louis. He founded Knowink in 2011, pioneering electronic poll books used by 36 million voters in 29 states by 2024 that enable real-time monitoring ripe for manipulation via internet ties. Remember voters being checked in remotely at a Dallas voting center as polls closed?
I'm now at 817. I'm at 1,089. I just jumped to 955.
You can thank electronic poll book technology for that. Under his watch, Knowink merged with BPro in 2020, inheriting Total Vote, a cloud-based system plagued by subversions. One subversion, fraudulently backdated 75,000 Hawaii voters discovered after 2020's fraudulent election. Who knows whether those voters were real? I just know Election Commissioner Ralph Cushnie confirmed 19,042 ballots have no record of their origin in one county in the last general election. Leindecker's Total Vote was in use in New Mexico, working with Dominion voting systems. That's right, Total Vote had a dry run with Dominion before. New Mexico's 2022 Otero audit, led by Aaron Clements, flagged impossible voter registration spikes. 33 counties' rolls inflated in lockstep, fraudulent registrations ticking like a fine-tuned clock. Leindecker's last acquisition enabled it. Now he's collected Dominion. Don't take my word that Leindecker has no intention of reigning in Dominion. An email from Liberty Vote to Dominion clients stating it's business as usual, same team, same support, different name, discredited his public promise to rebuild trust from the ground up. Leindecker's resume includes a 2010 stint overseeing Kosovo's elections under Obama, a geopolitical win for the European Union. Now he buys Dominion, rebranding it Liberty Vote, 100% American-owned. He pledges audits but leaves lawsuits in place against Mike Lindell and Patrick Byrne. Both are fierce Dominion critics. Both were stymied in their audit efforts. So much corruption, hacks, backdoors, anomalies unfolded on Leindecker's watch. Yet he consolidates Knowink and Dominion's worst features under one umbrella. Leindecker is like Agent Smith from The Matrix, a digital enforcer spawning through zeros and ones to guard a cloud-based vote and an AI-driven future, silencing threats to its power. His master is the slave master of old, trading iron chains for digital ones, adapting from plantation to precinct server, promising freedom while tightening its grip on the Republic.
So that'll give you a pretty good start as to what David covers in this latest release of the professor's record. A couple things strike me as we go through this. One is the prevalence of Dominion personnel installed across much of the voting infrastructure, especially in Georgia. Folks in many counties know that one or more past Dominion employees or consultants are actually still resident in some of these election offices. Isn't that interesting? In fact, there are Dominion employees that are working for our current Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and it was brought up in a set of speeches from candidates that I heard the other evening. So much more to this story, many more contacts and connections, and it only underscored the way that David Clemens describes this. It's a many-armed octopus, if you will, a leviathan, with the ability to stretch across many different things. And as one thing gets discovered, they can pull that back and change it and go back and with something new created or a new name, try to continue working the process. So can't stress it too much, especially here in Georgia. The solution is not more machines. It's not a change to the machines. The solution is exactly as President Trump has asked: hand-marked paper ballots, hand counting, and single-day voting, citizenship checks, and voter ID. You add that together, and we could see a valid and provable election soon. Oh, you're still on mute, Todd.
Sorry about that. I had muted during the movie. So I want to jump in on one other issue, which is this is a very good tell in a series of tells on, you've talked about it before, Bill, that you're going to be able to like discern, see the waters part between people who are on our side and who aren't. And in Conservative Inc., I think this is a telling, and obviously you have to use discernment and look in somebody's old career and the consequences of their actions. But you mentioned Raheem coming out in favor of this. That is extremely interesting to me, because I think that is a tell of who is the controlled opposition and who is not, or at least something that needs to be investigated. I'm not calling him controlled opposition. I'm saying it's a tell and you need to be aware of it, and you do your own research into what else people are pushing. The other one that was a huge tell was the Epstein binders at the White House. Who got those binders? And who was out saying, I've got them, come on my show in an hour exclusive? Who was that? That was another big tell. And so we here are not controlled by anyone. We don't take, we have different people who pay for advertising, but we're not controlled by anybody. So we can drop advertisers, bring them in, whatever. The only thing that drives us is the truth. And that's what you can count on here at CDM. So back to you.
Yep. So you've hit on what I think is a very key point, and that is, how do we tell who is on, we'll call it what team, if you will, or appears to be, based on their actions or their lack of actions? And if you go back and look, you'll find many people have avoided pointing the finger at the machines. And this isn't just recently, although it continues today, but we've seen it. You've called it out, Todd. I've called it out. Many people have called us, mistaken for doing this. Yet, if you see somebody that, after everything we've learned, after everything that's been released from Tulsi Gabbard and her investigations, and continues to be, if you hear what David Clemens talks about, then think of those people that have said, gosh, the solution is we've just got to get more people registered. We've got to vote harder.
Yeah.
Those are the guys you need to be thinking about and say, why would they do that? Why aren't they focused on this in just the same way? Because this is, to thinking people, this appears to be very clear that the machines have a role in this. And it may be many roles. It may not be one thing. And that might be
it's a bunch of different vectors, but this was one. Right. It's like they're ace in the hole, right? If they don't get enough ballots in the door, they can just flip it on the machines.
And there may be multiple ways to change it on the machines from what we're gathering as more goes on. You'll find that many of the people that we have come to in the course of the fullness of time, I guess we'll call it, trust, have been those that now we see are saying, hey, this seems to be a fulcrum to this, and it circles around the machines. That's somewhere there is a key part of the problem. The other thing to note is he mentioned it, and I want to make sure we call it out. Dominion had and has a couple of lawsuits still in play where they're in lawsuits against Michael Lindell, against Patrick Byrne, a good friend of CDM and a well-known person for us. And yet those lawsuits are still there. Why would they be? Why wouldn't that have been quashed almost instantly?
And why
They're spending
wouldn't he
money
say,
to keep
okay,
those going?
we're going to have an open house day at Dominion. Anybody who wants to see anything in the machines can come in and look at the source code, see everything, and we're going to have full transparency. We haven't heard that either.
Yep. I think that letter to Dominion or whoever stakeholders was telling. Same people, same structure, different name, different date.
Yep.
All right. Anything last, Todd?
No, we're not going to play Dr. Naji Hayek from Lebanon. You can see that on cdm.press on our Rumble channel on YouTube as well. We cut a clip of his recent interview I did on the Skiff on protecting Christianity in Lebanon. I'll be in Lebanon at the end of the week, so look forward to that. I'm also speaking at a Maryland Lincoln dinner here at the end of the week as well. It's going to be busy. I speak and then get on a plane to the Middle East. So going to be a fascinating week. But thanks for putting the show together, Bill. And that's all I've got. Oh, I'll be on the Skiff tomorrow at 10 a.m. Monday through Friday into noon. And we'll have the show, have a great show. So thank you.
That sounds great. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. Again, we recommend really listening super carefully to what Trump and others around him are saying. There seems to be interesting comms in here, or at least emphasis in various areas. We saw a video about, gosh, it goes back a ways, but it's been played, I think, a couple of months ago. And then Trump has posted it again, I think 3 times this week. And so we thought, isn't this a good time to make sure people have seen this? The last time
I'm going to drop out, Bill. All right. I'll see you next time.
Okay. Safe travels, Todd.
All right.
Thank you. So the last time he posted it was about 10 o'clock last night. And so let's show this. And when this is over, we will, that'll be the end of the show for today. We'll see you again on Wednesday evening at 7. So here is Trump's video.
Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple. If you and I have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right, we'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines in my face getting clearer. The past is gone, it went by like dusk to dawn. Isn't that the way? Everybody's got the dues in life to pay. Yeah, I know nobody knows where it comes and where it goes. I know that everybody says you got to lose to know how to win. Half my life's in books, written pages, live and learn from fools and from sages. You know it's true. All the things come back to you. Sing with me, sing for the year, sing for the laugh, sing for the tear. Sing with me, just not today, maybe tomorrow.
as long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve. The best is yet to come.